Hey guys, Adrian Shepherd here, author of iSucceed and creator of iSucceedbook.com. And today I'm on the line with Mr. Gregory Mannorino to share with us what's going on in the world of finance. Greg started out his career as an analyst for Bear Stearns, but today is the host of a popular YouTube blog where he explains and exposes the world of Wall Street, finance, government, and politics, and economics. He is also the author of the new book, The Politics of Money. It's a pleasure to have you on the line with us today, Greg.
I'm really happy to be here. Thank you.
Okay. Could you start out by sharing with us a little bit about who you are and how you got to where you are today?
Sure. Well, basically, I started a long time ago, before the dot-com bubble, working for Bear Stearns, just like you said. I was a lowly analyst. I ended up becoming a trader there. I realized that really wasn't where I wanted my direction in life to be, believe it or not, at the time. I thought it was boring. I decided to maybe look at medicine. So I studied medicine. I'm a practicing healthcare provider now as well. I'm kind of a Renaissance guy, I guess, in a lot of ways. I like to keep busy. But what really changed me, what really opened my eyes was the crash of 2008. When I saw, well, you have to understand a few things. I kept friendly with a lot of people over the years in finance, friends who were over at Bear, and that whole thing there was really a setup, and I was personally upset by it on many levels, and to see what happened to our country here in the United States and on a global level, it really affected me to such a degree. I decided I needed to do something about it. So, I started pondering about how to do that. What can I do to try to get people to understand this game? It's a terrible game, honestly, and it's not just about finance, like we were talking about just before we started here. It's a game about human life at this time, and I don't believe people understand the gravity of this. As this unfolds, as this accelerates, what it really means to humanity as a whole. And my job really now, I've dedicated myself to this 100%, is trying to raise that awareness to people and try to put this into a perspective that they can grasp at its most basic level and actually try to make it work for them as opposed to against them. The system is aligned directly against the people to benefit the few, and that's the truth here. So what I'm trying to do is flip it around or change those odds a little bit and let people understand what is really going on here, how they can take advantage of it, how they can protect themselves and ultimately survive. And I know that sounds extreme, but it really is going to come down to the availability of resources, which are going to become scarce at one time when this whole thing really comes to a head here. So that's really what I'm about, and that's what I'm trying to do.
Okay, that's just some serious statements right there. But, I mean, I'm sure as we go through this, I think people will understand the gravity of what you're talking about. Mm-hmm. Now, you just came out with your new book, your sixth book, right? It's The Politics of Money. Could you share with us a little bit what it's all about and why you decided to write it? I'm assuming it's because of what you just said, but could you elaborate?
Sure. Basically what I wanted to do was take really some basic concepts that maybe people hear about and, maybe they think about it a little bit, but they really don't understand them. For example, how this whole thing is set up, how money really works, how it's a system that is basically designed to keep people debtors and in debt, basically slaves in many ways to the establishment. And this is not just going on here in the United States. We see what's going on here, and it just kind of illuminates everything from multiple angles. It starts out basically telling you about myself a little bit, talks about what's really going on here on Wall Street, in many ways why things are the way that they are at the most basic level, how our politicians play into this, the military-industrial complex, and how world leaders are deliberately misleading the masses of people And that is the biggest crime of them all, in my opinion, because I believe sincerely in my heart of hearts that they are all well aware of what is coming. And what is coming is a financial monster, the likes of which people are not going to believe. And we're watching it unfold literally right before our eyes. And I think the time is now for people to understand how severe this actually is and what may be coming down the pike.
Are you scared?
Yeah, I am scared. There's no doubt about it. As a matter of fact, I have friends all over the place, and we talk about it all the time. Friends in finance, in economics, and we're all afraid. We understand what's going to go on here, and I don't care honestly how prepared people are. They're not going to be fully prepared for what is coming. In a worst case scenario, we could see human life be lost on a global scale. Of a nuclear exchange because of what is coming here. Our policymakers are aware of this. This is why here in the United States, the police are being militarized in every state in the union. This is why drones are slated to patrol the skies. It's not to fight terrorism. It's because they understand that mass civil unrest is coming.
Wow. Not good news for sure.
No, it is good news. It is a good news. And our policymakers are making it worse. With the bailouts, first of all, that was the whole TARP program that never had to happen. That's really the truth here. And we were kind of scared into it by Henry Paulson. They kind of really misled everyone about what was actually going on here. I understand they needed to free up the credit. I mean, that's really what it was all about. Status post crash 2008. They need to free up credit. But they've gone off the deep end here with quantitative easing into infinity. And it cannot stop. Despite what nonsense may come out of the mouths of these people, like for example today, there was just an inkling that the Federal Reserve might back off on the QE. They can't do it. They won't do it. The moment they do that, we go to the Stone Age here in the United States. Everything collapses. And I've been over this many times. At its most basic level, here in the United States, all of the economies of the world, all the modern economies are based around the acquisition of debt into infinity, period. Once we admit we can't borrow anymore, like Europe, well, guess what happens? You have a debt crisis. The debt crisis of them all is coming here to the United States because we have the biggest problems of them all that are being compounded by our absolutely inept people in Washington. And it's going to be very interesting to see how this unfolds.
Okay. Well, that's the big picture, a lot of bad stuff coming. How do you see it playing out, like country by country? I mean, there's three big areas right now that are in trouble. I mean, you've got the Eurozone, you've got America, and then you've got basically Japan, and maybe a fourth one, of course, is China. How do you see things playing out?
Okay. Well, let's just say a few things. Right now, I mean, we always hear how America is touted as the biggest economy in the world. First of all, that's not true. It's Europe, by GDP. And the United States would be number 2. China is number 3. Let me just say this. I believe that the Chinese they're sitting back and they're watching this all happen. They've been positioning themselves for many, many years for what is coming now. They realize that we are at the end of the ability to acquire any more debt here in the United States, over in Europe. And what are they doing? Well, they're acquiring gold in mass. Their people are acquiring gold. They're getting away from U.S. dollars. And this is something that's not spoken about, how the United States dollar is losing its reserve status. This is happening right before our eyes. These economies cannot recover, no matter what they do. They're trying to inflate out of it. It won't happen. They're stifling growth here with debt burdens, which frankly cannot be borne anymore. And it's putting so much pressure on this that this whole thing is going to collapse. As a matter of fact, Bill Gross of PIMCO, you know who he is, and I'm sure many of your readers do, described the debt problem as a supernova. That's not good. What's going to happen here is this debt bubble, which we're already seeing cracks in it, and it's going to burst, period. This is not speculation. Every single bubble in history, I'm referring to economic and financial bubbles, has burst. Why? Because they rise above a level that can be sustained, period, by any means. Any means. And the means they're doing now is by pumping liquidity into a world that doesn't need anymore. They're devaluing currencies. There's an obvious currency war going on. And those out there that are not playing this game are going to win. Well, there's a lot of different things that they can do, but they got to get away from paper, period. And that's pretty much what I've been talking about as of late.
Okay. Now, I was talking to Andy Hoffman yesterday, and he believes in precious metals. But you talked about, real tangible objects. So that's precious metals and real estate. What's your feeling on that?
Precious metals, number one place to be. Number one, okay. Bar none. Okay. And I've been telling people that since I started, this is where you need to be in real money. This scheme that pieces of paper with numbers printed on them is real money. It's a joke. It's not real money. They want us to believe it's real money, and they've built this system specifically for their benefit. When we were on a gold standard, just for example, that was a system that was designed to create wealth. They didn't want people to create wealth. They wanted to create debtors. So they took that away. They created this fiat monetary system, and therntelling us, well, Ben Bernanke is telling us that gold is not real money. You remember the interview, or was it silver, with Ron Paul? One of the two. Oh, that's not real money. And why do you hold it? Well, we hold it for tradition. Oh, yeah, really? I mean, it's unbelievable, and it's a conflict of interest how they're able to, spew fiat money. All the central banks are doing it, spewing fiat currency to the world. Meanwhile, they're hoarding gold. It's utterly absurd. So this cycle of debt is ending. And, cash or fiat is debt. Every bill, every coin is a unit of debt. It is not a unit of wealth. Gold and silver are units of wealth. And this is where people need to be. We see what's going on here in the markets. I told people this was going to happen, and it is happening right before our very eyes. The hedge funds, the institutional investors are dumping SLV, they're dumping GLD, they're going to short the market. I said that 3 or 4 days ago, and it's exactly how it unfolded today. It's going to get much worse, in my opinion, as we move forward. So take advantage of these prices. As a matter of fact, I told everyone, all my subscribers, to dump GLD, to dump SLV if they have it, and buy the real assets. And today, I came out and told them to dump everything, dump paper across the board, because the markets are manipulated. The equity markets I'm referring to, as well as the metals markets and other currency markets too. We understand that, but dump it all. Get away from it and get yourself into real assets, precious metals, and honestly, that's where you need to be. Take advantage of these prices.
I mean, some people might say, well, I mean, of course, America got hit. The Dow got hit yesterday, and gold dropped in price, and people will say, hey, gold's had its time, it's hit its high, and it's not worth it anymore. And look at the stock market in Japan, for example. It's gone up 20% finally after all these years. I mean, I'm sure you've heard all these kind of arguments.
Sure.
What do you have to say to those people?
Well, why has the Japanese market risen lately? What have they done to their currency? As the currency gets weaker, it buys less things, so it takes more of that currency to buy anything. So even stocks will rise. It's a very simple concept. Now, with regard to the paper markets of gold and silver, they're nothing. They're run and monopolized by the institutional investors and the hedge funds, period. And they can do anything they want with it. It has no bearing on reality. Zero. They do not represent the underlying asset. They want people to believe that, but there's a total disconnect between what's really happening fundamentally and in reality in the metals markets and what's going on in the paper markets. And I've been saying this too. At one point, I think there's going to be decoupling. You're going to see a paper market separate from a metal market. When is that going to happen? I have no idea, but I can tell you this: they're getting very desperate. And we can see what's going on here with regard to the metals markets. And they're trying to brainwash people to think, oh, look what's happening to gold. Look what's happening to silver. It is not happening to gold, and it is not happening to silver. It's happening to something called GLD and SLV. These are paper markets, and it's just an absolute gag that's being played on people, and people are getting smart. I think people are getting smart. I have people writing to me every day about what's going on here, and I think people are starting to wake up. At least I hope so.
I hope so too. Yeah, I mean, it's clever what they can do with paper. I mean, it's all on a computer screen, and it can be controlled with all sorts of push buttons, but physical metal is something you have to dig out of the ground, and it's incredible how much work and effort and manpower it takes to actually get that out of the earth and to make it an actual item that you can sell to somebody else, it's a completely different ballgame. Which, of course, as I said, the four zones, as I said, China, Japan, Europe, and America, which do you think is in the most dire straits in the immediate future?
Well, I can sum that up real quick. One word:
Okay.
America.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why right now. The people here in America are being zombified. Literally, you see all these movies about zombies. Well, zombies are real. Our policymakers are sitting here, literally misleading everyone. I mean, and this is what bothers me the most. I'm going to be honest with you. I think if our policymakers here in America were to lay this out for the American people and explain to them that we have a problem, I think that a solution would be able to be attained. But the fact that they do nothing but lie and manipulate numbers, people have no idea what's going on. So when the brunt of this hits, the United States, people here in the United States are going to be blindsided the most. People in Europe, frankly, are not that stupid. People over in your neck of the woods, not that stupid. It's really true. The American people have been dumbed down to such a degree they cannot even walk and chew gum at the same time. That's the horror of this whole thing. They have no idea. They walk around in their little boxes that they're put in deliberately by the politicians, by the entire system, by the way it's designed. And it is my sincere hope that more people will start thinking outside that box. The United States is going to suffer the most. We have the most problems, and we have our politicians who are absolutely disconnected from the people. Okay, but you have to understand, they're all on the side of the investment banks, the side of the central bankers. They're all part of the political corporatists. That's what I call them in my book, The Politics of Money. They clearly understand what's going on, and believe me, they and their families are all on the right side of this equation, where they're leaving everyone else vulnerable to what is coming. And what is coming is going to be epic.
Okay, well, I mean, people who are scared and are concerned about the future, and obviously people who watch your videos and have read your book obviously understand that. What advice can you give to people? What books or people should they look into to find out more information about this?
Well, some of the people that you just named earlier, I think there's a lot of people out here trying to make a difference, like yourself, and that's the truth. And I think they have to shut off their televisions for the most part, get away from the mainstream media. It's a game. All of it is to keep people's perception in check. It's all about perception. It has nothing to do with reality. It's what people understand or what they think they understand. That is their reality, but their reality is not the real reality that's going on right now. I know it sounds bizarre, but that's really the truth. They've created an alternate universe, and they want us to believe that that's the way things are, but that's really not the way that things are. And that's what scares me the most, is when people are faced with the reality that, just for example, here in the United States, we are not going to recover. We are going to get much, much, much worse. Without the Federal Reserve printing into oblivion, we would not even be here right now probably talking. We would probably already, first of all, I think a lot of things would happen. If the Fed did not step in, like I said earlier, and just try to free up the credit markets, that might have been a problem. I mean, I'm probably going to take a lot of heat for this, and I have. I think that their first round of quantitative easing was actually not such a bad idea when it came out, to try to free up the markets, but then they went overboard. They realized, hey, we can have absolute financial irresponsibility and just print into oblivion, and it's going to fix everything, and it's obviously not. All they do is they're trying to keep the stock market inflated. They're trying to brainwash people to believe that the Dow Jones Industrial Average, the S&P 500, and the NASDAQ are economic indicators. They are absolutely not economic indicators. But as long as people perceive that the stock market is doing well, then everything is just fine. And all their investments are going to do well. But this is a setup. This is a setup just like it was the crash of 2008. All of that money, that euphoria that's in the market right now, is going to be erased. It's a transfer of wealth, period. And that's how this is going to play out. That's how it's playing out right now. I'm very leery about the markets right now. Very, very leery. I think they're way over-owned and due for a significant pullback. And that could be the start of a wave of who knows. Because once fear starts gripping the people, and it's something that our policymakers are trying to keep in check. Fear pervades, and it'll take over, and you'll see a sell-off that you won't believe. That's going to happen anyway. When we start to see interest rates rise, and the debt bubble bursts, it's going to put pressure on equities, which are going to sell off rapidly. So whatever people think they have will be gone anyway, and end up in someone else's pocket, someone else that's savvy enough to know how to get it. And again, it's not too hard. We were talking about finance earlier. This whole thing is a game. They want you to think no one knows about it. It's this big mystery. It's shrouded. Only the smartest people know about it. Well, that's absolute nonsense. I can tell you that right now. You don't even need a high school education to understand these things. If you just do some reading, break this all down, it'll all make sense to you, and you can make it work for you.
Okay. You said one thing earlier about the economic indicators. You said that stock markets are not economic indicators. Well, what are then?
Well, I think they're being used as a tool right now to keep people brainwashed. I mean, let's talk about it. We got what happened here? Okay, we have the Federal Reserve here flooding the world full of dollars, which we don't need, creating an imbalance in the supply and demand for these dollars. That's a whole other issue, which is very, very dangerous. Well, what they've done, they've allowed their institutional investors, the hedge funds, and obviously J.P. Morgan's and the Goldman Sachs, to borrow money for nothing and speculate with that in the market, subsequently driving it up. Who benefits from this? Who benefits from the markets going up? Yeah, the rich people do, but does the average guy or the average girl benefit from it? Absolutely not. It's an illusion. It's an absolute illusion. Once the punch bowl is taken away, 50% of this market at least will be gone, erased. So what do people? What's going to happen to their investments? What's going to happen to their 401k plans? I don't know. I think there's going to be a lot of very unhappy zombies walking around here in the United States. And I hope maybe today, with this interview, we could turn some of those would-be zombies into non-zombies.
Well, I hope we can help people. That's all that we can do. We can try, get the message out, and people have to make their own decision. I mean, they have to listen to you, and they have to listen to the other people out there, and come to their own conclusion. I mean, I'm not always right with what I think, and I've been proven wrong so many times. I just have to try and share what I believe is right and why I believe it's the way it is, and I'm sure that's the way you feel as well.
Of course, not even a computer program is 100% perfect all the time. Period. If you're a trader, I understand you trade as well. You're not going to win all your trades. Anyone that tells you they do is a lie. I've been in this business long enough to tell you that there is in no way, zero, someone is winning 100% of their trades. A good trader is probably doing 7 out of 10. And that's probably the best that you can hope for. Anyone that tell you they're doing better than that, I don't know. I'd have to see it to believe it. Let's put it that way.
Okay. Well, Greg, if people would like to find out more about you or your book, what information can you give people? Your YouTube channel or your website, or what can you give them there?
Yeah, it's easy to find. You could just go to YouTube, GregoryMannorino.com. will take you right to my YouTube channel. You could Google me. I'm really easy to find. And I always welcome people to find me on friend me on Facebook. Okay. I like having friends. I never turn anyone down. Would love to chat with some of your listeners out there. And then pretty much that's it.
Okay. Any final words?
Look out below with this market right now. Be very careful before the sequester. Let's see what happens. After sequester, maybe we want to get reinvested. But right now, I'm short the market.
Okay. I think that's good advice. Okay, Greg, thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule. I know you're a busy man. You've got interviews all over the web right now. And so I really appreciate this. And I hope we can do it again sometime, maybe.
Me too. Hope so.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.